What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Free Hour. It's your boy Trevor Turner. We're back with another episode of the Free Hour ABCs, the ABCs of Tree. Thank you once again for tuning in, man. And today we're on the letter N. So we're just going to be talking about now. We're going to be talking about living in the now. We're going to be talking about being present in the now. We're going to be talking about the power of now. And basically now is just the present moment. Now is literally the only time that we have that actually exists, because the future hasn't happened yet, even though we spend so much time worrying about it and it triggers our anxiety thinking about the future. It hasn't even happened yet. It's not certain to exist in the way that we think it's going to exist, in the way that we worry it's going to exist. And then when we think about the past, that time has come and gone. A lot of times when we think about the past, we think about the mistakes that we made. We think about something stupid we might have said, or we think about how we could have done something better. And unless we are purely looking at the past from a standpoint of how can I make a similar experience to that go better, we're spending entirely too much time in a period that does not exist anymore, which is the past. So today we're going to talk about the power of now. And I just got back from urgent care. So they say I got bronchitis or some shit like that. So I'm going to make this a kind of short-ish video. Well, I say that every time it's going to be a short video, and it ends up being like 20 minutes. But I'm going to try to take it easy on myself, because even, talking like this kind of hurts a little bit. But we're going to talk about why it is important to live in the now, to be in the now, to be present. We're going to talk about how to get there. And then we're going to talk about some of the benefits for people like us who are pursuing, who are striving, who are trying to accomplish things, who are trying to make our lives better. We're going to talk about why living in the now and being present in the now, in this moment, is a better place to be than worrying about the future or dwelling on the past. All right. So when we talk about the present moment, we're literally just talking about being completely engrossed, completely enveloped, completely occupied mentally with right now. It's about letting go of the past. It is about not dwelling and contemplating on the future. Now, we can still plan for the future. We can still plan and have things like, when this happens, I'm going to do this. When that happens, I'm going to do this. Or I can try to shape my future. I'm going to do this to try to bring about this outcome. But the problem is that we a lot of times get too far. When we live in the present moment, when we live in now, it is about being an observer of our thoughts. It is about being a non-judgmental observer of our thoughts. It is about being completely engaged. It is about 100% mental engagement with what we're doing right now. That's what being in the now means. That's what being in the now is. It's looking at the things that we cannot change, which is the past, and which is, to a certain extent, the future. We can shape our future, but we can't change everything about our future. We can't change everything about how a person might react in the future at a given date or time. If we might not even see that person, or we're worried about what's going to happen if this happens, or we're worried about what's going to happen if that happens. Being present in the now is knowing that there are certain things that you cannot change and letting those things go. It is about knowing there are things that have happened already that you can't change and letting those things go. And it also ties into what we were talking a lot about joy in the previous joy video, because joy actually comes from being present. Being present in this very moment, in the now, is the first step to getting joy. What happens is that we stop looking at the things that we can't change. We stop looking at the things that we hate about ourselves, or the the things that we judge about ourselves so harshly that we cannot change. And we let those things go. We let those things be. We stop looking at them at them in such a harsh and critical light, in such a harsh and judgmental light, and we let those things be. And then, of course, it's about taking the things that we can change and doing everything we can to change them. It's about knowing that we can be better every single day and doing what we can to make ourselves better every single day. It's about knowing, what can I do right now that will make me a better person? And then it's also just saying, like, hey, sometimes it's okay just to be. And sometimes it's okay just to be you. Sometimes it's okay just to see yourself for who you are. Sometimes it's okay just to sit with your thoughts, no matter how chaotic they may seem. Sometimes it's okay to sit with your emotions, no matter how unstable they may seem. Sometimes it's okay just to sit with yourself and be with yourself and be you. And a lot of times when we talk about now and the present moment, a lot of times what people are doing is we're trying to escape that, because we cannot handle being alone with ourselves. We can't handle just being ourselves. We can't handle our emotions. We can't handle the anxieties. We can't handle the worries, the doubts. We can't handle the embarrassments from the past. We can't handle our failures. So we are constantly trying to escape just being us. And the way that we escape that is by escaping the present moment into the future, into a future that has not even come about yet, but into a future that we're doing nothing to shape. We're doing nothing to bring this future about, because we've actually escaped from the time that we need to start doing something to make that future a reality. We've escaped from ourselves, or trying to escape from ourselves. And a lot of times, especially, people like me, who get involved in, chasing instant gratification, who get involved in doing drugs or getting high or whatever the case may be, or chasing adrenaline, and not in positive ways, because you can do that in positive ways through recreation, but you can also do it in negative ways through the type of shit that I was doing. And it's because we could not be, and we could not find ourselves alone with our own thoughts, because we could not look at our thoughts in a non-judgmental, in a non-critical, in a separated fashion. Whenever those thoughts came, they washed over us and they took over us completely, and we couldn't handle it, so we had to escape. So let's talk a little bit about how we get into being present. We're going to talk about just some real simple methods. And a lot of these methods, they come from The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle, I talked to you about him in the joy video. Eckhart Tolle is a man who was searching for joy. He was searching for spiritual truth in every way, in a lot of different ways that you can think of. And the way that he found it was literally just being present in the moment with himself. And the way that he found it was through allowing himself to be an observer of his thoughts. That was the first step. Not being judgmental. Not letting those thoughts dictate how you feel, but just noticing the fact that you have thoughts, noticing the fact that you have feelings, thinking about them for a second, processing what they mean, and letting them go. And so some of the methods that we get there, and the first thing that we have to do is we have to practice mindfulness. We have to practice, and literally mindfulness is about just observing your own mind. Mindfulness is about observing your own mind. So when we say mindfulness, it is a constant observation, a constant taking a look at what it is that you're thinking about or feeling about things, or being, and then further on with mindfulness is being present. But when we talk about mindfulness to get to being present, you're just literally letting those thoughts come. You're observing them. You're not trying to escape them. You're not trying to change them. You're not allowing them to influence you, but you're not trying to influence them. And you're just noting those thoughts. You're noting where those thoughts come from, what those thoughts are, what those thoughts mean to you, and then letting them go. When we talk about mindfulness, it's just about noticing our breath. It's about noticing the way our body feels. It's about noticing the stimuli, the stimulus, everything that is going on with our skin. It's going on with our joints. That's going on with all the feelings in our body. Taking a look at our breath. And then also, once we get to that point, we start to take a look at the things that are going on in our mind. And what will happen is a lot of times is that when our mind is racing, our mind is not actually racing 100 different, completely separate thoughts a minute. A lot of times what happens is our thoughts will race and it'll be the same thought over and over and over again, just repackaged and repainted and whatever as a different thought over and over and over again. But the source of it will be the same. The feeling behind it will be the same. It will be anxiety. It will be fear. It will be loneliness. It will be sadness. It will be anger. It will be whatever the case. It will be unforgiveness. And it'll be that same thought, just kind of retwisted, remixed a little bit, so it feels like a different thought. But a lot of times it'll be that same thought. And then once we're able to take a look at it, once we're able to unpack it, once we're able to just see it for what it is, realize where it's coming and let it go by, that's when that next batch of thoughts will come. And once we get more to the point of doing this and realizing that we are actually not those thoughts, that we are actually not those anxieties, we are actually not those fears, we are actually not those angers, we are not that unforgiveness. What happens is when we start to observe these thoughts just kind of go by and we're more mindful of these thoughts, what will happen is that thought will come once, we'll see it, it'll be like reading it in your mind. And even though Eckhart Tolle, he says not to do a lot of visual representations of the things that you're thinking about or seeing in your mind, what'll happen is you'll kind of see the thought. You may even read it. You may hear it in your mind, in your mind's ear. And what'll happen is that, okay, I know where that thought is coming from. That thought is anxiety. That thought is fear. That thought is this. That thought is that. And it comes from this, and that's where it is, but I can't change it, so I'm going to let it go. And then another thought will come and it will be a completely separate situation. Instead of 5 million thoughts just based on that one thing over and over and over again, because we've been able to unpack it and be mindful of it, we're able to move on to the next thing. And it takes practice. It does take a little bit of time to do this. A lot of times what happens is that, they say that even doing regular meditation, it takes a little bit of practice to be able to become present and just focus on your breathing. Because what happens is that, okay, it takes time to block out those thoughts. It takes time to, if you're not going to block them out, if you're going to look at them and unpack them and even be non-judgmental with them and let them pass by, it does take some time to get to the point where you're like separating yourself from those thoughts, looking at those thoughts for where they come from and what they come from, letting them pass by and saying, you know what, this is something that I can address and I will address it. Or this is something that I can't address, so I won't. But I know where that's coming from, and I know that anxiety is there. I know that fear is there, and I appreciate my brain feeding me that thought when I'm being mindful of what's going on so that I know how I'm feeling in here. And it takes time to get to that point. It takes time to get to the point where you're able to kind of think of those thoughts and where those thoughts come from as like a little mouse hole. And you're able to tell yourself, I wonder what I'm going to think of next. And nothing comes out of it because you have got to the point where you have unpacked every thought process that is going to come through. And you have got to the point where you can actually tell your mind when to start going on these tangents and when to stop going on these tangents. You are mindful enough and present enough to let that stuff switch off so you can focus. It takes time. But when you get there, is great. That's how we enter stuff like flow state. That's how we get to our creativity and everything like that. So once we start to observe our thoughts, then that's when we start to do our breathing. We focus on our breathing. That's when we start to do our meditations. And one of the ways that I was able to actually get into my own personal, mindfulness and present and being in the now was to use a body scan. And this was actually, it kind of came directly out of the book The Power of Now. It was just about body scan, because what it was is that I was literally not only observing my thoughts, but I was taking myself away from those thoughts and putting myself into my body, if that kind of makes sense. And so I would just kind of focus on my hands, and it works for everybody in different ways. It's either you focus on the energy in your hands, you try to focus on all the blood running through all the veins in your hands, you try to focus on where every little piece or particle of the air is touching on every little piece and particle of your skin. And you're just trying to be deeply and fully engrossed and engaged with your hands. And then when you get to that point where nothing is, only thing that exists is your hands, then you move on to your arms and do the same thing. Then you move on to your upper arms and your shoulders and you do the same thing. You move into your chest and you do the same thing. You move into things like your lungs and your heart. You move down to your stomach, everything inside. And you keep going down until you're able to get every piece of your body individually. And then you come back up to the crown of your head. You come back up to the top of your head. And then you let it all kind of go down and let the body come together as one. And the whole time you're focusing on breathing. The whole time, any stray thoughts that come, you're observing what those thoughts are. You're observing where those thoughts come from. You're not judging where those thoughts come from. You're just simply observing where they come from, what they are, what they mean to you, and just taking a note of it mentally and letting those thoughts go. Because unless you're sitting in a fire and your foot is on fire, or your house is on fire, or your house is flooding, or something else is going on right at that moment, 99.9% of those thoughts will be something that you cannot do anything about right then anyway. So you will note those thoughts, note where they come from. And a lot of them, anxiety is fear. Anger is fear. Everything either comes from Everything negative, a lot of times it comes from fear. So we note where those come from. We note that, and I know a lot of times, especially man, I ain't scared of nothing. I ain't scared of nobody. I ain't scared of nothing, blah, 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 blah. You will find out just how scared you are of things like failure, of things like being alone. You will find out just how scared you are of being broke, being homeless, losing that job. And a lot of those thoughts will just come unwarranted. Like, you could be an all-star at your job. You could be doing everything right. And those thoughts will still come. Note them. Note where they come from. Note that, you know what? There's a concern about my job. Is it something I can change right now? No. But I'm going to note it and I'm going to keep it in mind, because there's something going on in me that's giving me fear about losing my job. And so after you've come out of your session where you've been present in the moment, now you can start to fully unpack that and say, you know what? Am I being insecure? Is there something going on? Maybe there's something I'm picking up on subconsciously at work with the energies of the people around me. Maybe somebody's hating on me. Maybe my boss don't like me. Or maybe it's literally just me being insecure as fuck, being fearful for no reason, right? But we don't worry about it though. We just note that that's where that thought comes from. And we note that some of these thoughts are going to be important. Some of them are not, but we have to unpack them regardless and just let them go by without judging them. And some of the benefits to being able to get into this state, one of the things that I like to do is I like to do a lot of writing, right? And I like to do a lot of creating, and, I come up with my little outlines and stuff. I don't fully script these videos, but I definitely do an outline, and I mentally kind of go over the stuff I want to talk about. And one of the things that I do before, I get into that mode, before I even put a pen to the pad or even, start typing or whatever the case is, I do my body scan. I do my mindfulness. I do my forgiveness to get into that mode. And here's another thing that I completely forgot to mention on forgiveness. Before you are able to be present right now, things are going to come up in your mind and you're going to realize that they are resentments. You have to forgive those people. You have to forgive yourself too. And I know a lot of people hate the idea of forgiveness. They don't understand how forgiveness is a positive for me. They don't understand how forgiving somebody else is not just like doing them unwarranted favor. Like, they fucked up, they did some wrong shit to me. Why should I give them that forgiveness? Why should I do them that favor? Why should I do that? Because forgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That person don't even give a shit about you most times, unless it's like one of your main ops and he's really thinking about doing you in. But we don't have, most people don't, we don't have that. I don't even got that no more. Like, we have people who have done us wrong in such tiny little ways, or they might even be bigger ways. They might be very emotionally charged ways. It might be relationships or whatever the case. But those people ain't thinking about you. Every time you shoot them daggers in your mind at those people, guess who it's hitting? It's not hitting those people. It's hitting you. You need to let that shit go to be able to be present in the now. You need to let go of what those people did to you. You need to let go of how you feel about what those people did to you. You need to let go of all that baggage, because this flight that you're trying to get on, which is being present in the moment, does not check baggage. It don't even got an overhead bin for you to put a carry-on in. It's just you. The only one that can get in there is you. And the only way you can do that is to let go of all of that bullshit. And it's going to take time. I get that. I understand that. It took me 2.5 years for me to even feel the fully present moment for 15 minutes one time. But when I did it, oh my God, let me tell you how creative I got. Let me tell you that flow state that I got into. Let me tell you the ideas that poured forth. Let me tell you the fact that I didn't even feel like I was in prison, and I was in prison. Forgiveness, forgive those people. And that's when you get into that flow state, man. You do your little body scan, you do your mindfulness exercise, you do your breathing, you do everything you got to do. All those little bullshit resentments that you got, you know what? I'm going to let that go. I'm going to forgive that person. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to forgive that person. I'm not going to forget what they did, but I'm not going to bring it into now. I am not going to attach feelings to what they did to me anymore. It's just a thought. That thought comes from here. That thought comes from these feelings. That thought is attached to these feelings. So I'm going to let that thought go by non-judgmentally. I'm going to realize that these feelings could be there in my life. They could be going on, but I'm going to let that thought go. And I'm going to let those thoughts, those feelings be attached to those thoughts right now. I'm going to be in control of what my conscious mind is doing. Just for that long, to where I can get in that flow state and let my subconscious mind shine through, to where I can let my subconscious mind create the plans or receive the plans to do what it is that I want to do, to let those goals finally shine through in what it is that I'm trying to do. That's why people, when they play in sports, people get into that state all the time, because all they realize is, I just got right now. It's just me, the person in front of me, it's the ball, it's the hoop, it's the 3 seconds left on the clock. They get into that now because they don't got no other time but right now. We can tap into that mentality. We can tap into that fierceness. We can tap into that with everything that we do by being present in our now. Whether it is you trying to write, whether it is you trying to be a motivational speaker, whether it is you just a student and you're trying to do better on your classes. If you take that time to be mindful and get into the present moment, watch, man. Watch how things just come together better. That's why they say to do little relaxation techniques before you even take a test. It's because you letting your subconscious mind run wild. Your subconscious mind that is being suppressed by your conscious mind with all the worries and all the bullshit and the racing thoughts about tomorrow and yesterday, when you got something to do right now. And that's how we do it. That's how we do it. That's why we do it. And that's why it's important. Now, like I said, Oh, shit. So I did say this was going to be a short video. I lied. I do that a lot. I'm a liar. But anyway, yeah, man, I'm going to give y'all the 5 years from now next week because I really just want to recap and wrap up this entire semester of school, man. Shit has been going amazing. Just because of the person that I am and what I'm now bringing to the table mentally, spiritually, emotionally, you know, it's just, when I start focusing on the different results and I start focusing on just living in this moment, the way that things come together differently for me now is just crazy. So I really want to talk about that, and I really hope that y'all join me for that, man. Hey, look, if you watch the video and you like the video, share your thoughts with me, share it with other people, and make sure you write a comment, man. Make sure you write a comment about the ways that you get present. If I didn't touch on it, and there are ways that you get present, make sure to put that shit in the comments, man. My methods may not work for everybody, and then your methods may work better, for somebody else who's watching it saying like, man, I tried that stuff before. It didn't really work. And then they see your comment and they're like, damn, that's the one right there. There may be somebody watching this video just for the sole sake of that comment, bro. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Yeah, I think that what I'm talking about is important, but the interaction is just as important. All right. Once again, your boy Trevor Turner. This has been the free hours of Tree. The ABCs of Tree. Excuse me, the free hour ABCs, sick edition. And, thank you for watching, man. Doses.